You just got a raise, maybe a new job, maybe a side hustle finally started paying off, and yet you're somehow still living paycheck to paycheck. Sound familiar? Here's the uncomfortable truth that nobody at your job, your bank, or your financial advisor wants to say out loud. Your brain is working against you. Not because you're dumb, not because you're lazy, but because your brain was literally never designed to build wealth in 21st century America. It was designed to survive the savannah 100,000 years ago. And that ancient wiring, the same one that kept your ancestors alive, is the exact thing draining your bank account today. In this video, I'm going to walk you through 7 of the most powerful psychological traps that keep Americans broke, no matter how much money they make. And I'm going to show you exactly what's going on in your brain, and more importantly, what to do about it. Let's get into it. Let me paint you a picture. You're 27. You've been grinding since college. Entry-level salary, cheap apartment, cooking at home. And you promised yourself, the moment you hit 6 figures, everything changes. Then the day comes. $100,000 a year. You did it. So you get a nicer apartment, a newer car. You upgrade your phone, your wardrobe, your gym membership. You start going to nicer restaurants. You treat yourself because, hey, you earned it. 5 years later, you're making $120,000, and you're still living paycheck to paycheck. This is lifestyle inflation, and it is the single most common reason why Americans with good incomes never build real wealth. Here's the psychology behind it. There's a concept called hedonic adaptation, and it basically means that humans are hardwired to return to a baseline level of happiness no matter what happens to them. Win the lottery? Within 2 years, most lottery winners report about the same level of happiness as before. Buy the dream car? Give it 6 months. It's just your car now. Your brain normalizes everything. So every time your income goes up and your spending goes up with it, you get a brief dopamine hit, and then you're right back at zero, wanting more. The American consumer culture weaponizes this against you. Every ad on Instagram, every influencer on TikTok, every billboard on I-95. They exist to convince you that the next purchase is the one that will finally make you feel like enough. It won't. Your brain won't let it. So what do? The fix is something called the 50% rule of raises. Every time your income increases, whether it's a raise, a bonus, a promotion, or side income, you commit, before you get used to the money, to saving or investing at least 50% of the increase. The other half? Enjoy it. You earned it. But that first 50% goes directly to your future self before your lifestyle creep can get to it. Okay, quick question. Would you rather have $100 today or $150 in 6 months? Logically, you should take the $150. That's a 50% return in 6 months. Warren Buffett would kill for that. But if you're like most people, you hesitated. Maybe you even said, "Give me the $100. That's present bias, and it's one of the most studied and most financially destructive cognitive quirks in human psychology. Present bias is your brain's tendency to overvalue immediate rewards and dramatically undervalue future rewards. Researchers at Princeton ran MRI studies showing that when people think about future rewards, they use the rational prefrontal cortex. But when they think about immediate rewards, the emotional limbic system lights up like a Christmas tree. You're fighting your logic with your feelings. Feelings almost always win. This is why the average American carries over $5,000 in credit card debt. Swiping feels amazing right now. Paying the bill feels awful 3 weeks later. Your brain doesn't connect those two events emotionally. This is why only 55% of Americans participate in their employer's 401k, even when the employer matches contributions. Free money, and people are leaving it on the table. This is why the buy now, pay later industry, companies like Affirm, Klarna, Afterpay, has exploded into a $100 billion business in the United States. They are selling you your own present bias. So how do you fight it? You make the future feel more real to your brain. Here's one technique that actually works. Write yourself a letter from your 65-year-old self. Describe your life in retirement in vivid detail. Where you live, what you do in the mornings, whether you're worried about money or not. Neuroscience research shows that when people write or think about their future selves in specific detail, they treat that future person more like themselves and less like a stranger. And that makes it easier to save for them. The second technique is automation. Set up your 401k contribution or savings transfer to happen automatically the day you get paid. The money disappears before your emotional brain even knows it existed. You can't outthink your brain, but you can outmaneuver it. Here's a scenario. Tax season. You get a $2,000 federal refund. Now, there are two versions of you. Version A got that same $2,000 in $167 extra per paycheck throughout the year, and they saved it, paid off debt, or invested it normally. Boring, but smart. Version B just got a $2,000 check in April. They're going on a weekend trip to Vegas. Why are these the same money but treated so completely differently? Mental accounting. The term was coined by Nobel Prize-winning economist Richard Thaler. Our brains don't treat all money the same. We put money into psychological buckets, and the rules are different depending on which bucket it's in. A tax refund feels like found money, like a gift, even though you literally overpaid taxes all year. A work bonus feels like play money. A gambling win gets spent recklessly. An inheritance feels untouchable. None of this is rational. A dollar is a dollar, regardless of where it came from or how it arrived. Mental accounting is also why people keep $10,000 in a savings account, earning 0.5% interest, while carrying $8,000 in credit card debt at 24% APR. Their brain says the savings account is the security bucket. You can't touch it. Even though mathematically, paying off the card and then rebuilding the savings account would save them thousands in interest. The fix? Start thinking in terms of net worth, not separate buckets. Your total financial picture is one number. It doesn't matter which pocket the money came from. What matters is where it ends up. Treat every dollar, windfall, bonus, paycheck, tax refund, with the same intentionality. Ask, what is the highest value thing this dollar can do for my net worth right now? Let's talk about the elephant in the room. The Jones family. You know them. Maybe they live on your street. Maybe they're your cousin posting vacation photos from Cabo. Maybe they're the coworker who just got a new Tesla. Social comparison is built into our DNA. For most of human history, your social group was your survival network. Status within the tribe literally determined whether you ate, whether you had shelter, whether you mated. Your brain is wired to obsessively track where you stand relative to the people around you. But here's the problem. In modern America, you're not comparing yourself to a tribe of 150 people. You're comparing yourself to everyone. Your neighborhood, your LinkedIn feed, your Instagram, your high school reunion, the cast of The Real Housewives. You are being bombarded with the highlight reels of millions of people all day long. And research shows this comparison doesn't motivate us to build real wealth. It motivates us to look wealthy. There is a massive difference. A 2019 study from Schwab found that 35% of Americans feel financial pressure to keep up with their friends and family. 1 in 3 people are making financial decisions based on what other people will think of them. That's not a financial plan. That's a social anxiety spending strategy. Here's the reality that nobody posts on Instagram. Most of the people who look rich aren't. The National Endowment for Financial Education found that over 70% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. The guy with the $80,000 F-150 is probably financing it over 84 months. The family with the huge house in the suburbs might be one job loss away from foreclosure. Wealth is what you don't see. Morgan Housel writes in The Psychology of Money. The real wealth is in the brokerage account, the paid-off mortgage, the boring index fund, none of which photographs well. The fix starts with a radical act of financial privacy. Stop broadcasting your spending. Stop consuming other people's financial highlight reels. Mute the accounts that trigger comparison spending. And find your community among people who talk openly about building wealth, not spending it. Quick experiment. I'm going to flip a coin. Heads, you win $200. Tails, you lose $100. That's a mathematically great bet. Expected value is positive. You should take it every time. But most people won't. That's loss aversion, one of the most powerful and well-documented biases in behavioral economics. Research by Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky showed that the pain of losing something is roughly twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining something of equal value. Losing $100 feels about as bad as winning $200 feels good. This quirk of human psychology has enormous financial consequences. It's why people keep losing stocks way too long, because selling feels like locking in the loss. Holding gives them hope that maybe it'll come back. In the meantime, the money that could be working elsewhere stays frozen in a losing position. It's why people don't negotiate their salary. The fear of the awkward conversation, of possibly making the hiring manager say no, outweighs the potential gain of $10,000 or $20,000 a year. Studies show that people who negotiate their starting salary end up earning over $1 million more over the course of their career. One conversation, $1 million. And most people don't have it. It's why people don't invest in the stock market even when they have money sitting in a savings account yielding almost nothing. What if the market crashes? The fear of losing is more powerful than the excitement of growing. The fix is something called reframing. Instead of thinking about investments as things you could lose, start thinking about not investing as a guaranteed loss to inflation. Sitting in a savings account at 2% while inflation runs at 3% means you are losing purchasing power every single year. That is the certain loss. Investing is just deciding how to fight it. This one is a little different, and I want to handle it carefully. There's a psychological phenomenon called the scarcity mindset, and it affects millions of Americans in ways that are genuinely heartbreaking. Researchers Sendil Mullainathan and Eldar Shafir spent years studying the psychology of poverty and found something counterintuitive. Scarcity doesn't just create financial problems, it changes how your brain works. When your brain is constantly preoccupied with a shortage of money, of food, of time, it creates what they call a cognitive tax. Your mental bandwidth gets consumed by managing the shortage. Studies show that the cognitive impact of financial worry is equivalent to losing 13 IQ points, the equivalent of a full night without sleep. This creates a cruel cycle. Financial stress impairs the decision-making you need to fix your finances. You're more likely to take out a payday loan, more likely to miss a bill payment and rack up a late fee, more likely to buy the cheap fast food because you don't have the mental energy to meal prep. If you grew up without money, this mindset can linger long after your financial situation changes. Psychologists call it a scarcity script, the deep-seated belief that there will never be enough, that you shouldn't even try to build wealth because it's not for people like you. If this resonates with you, I want to say clearly, this is not a character flaw. This is a trauma response that was protective at some point in your life. The work of unwinding it is real, and it often requires more than a budgeting app. Therapy, financial coaching, and surrounding yourself with people who have abundance mindsets, people who believe that wealth is buildable and money is learnable, can genuinely change the neural pathways around how you see money. Your brain is plastic. It can change. But you have to intentionally give it new experiences that contradict the old story. All right, last one. And this one is gonna sting a little. Studies consistently show that 93% of Americans believe they are above average drivers. That's statistically impossible, but it tells you everything about human psychology. We are wildly overconfident, especially about things we feel like we understand, but don't. In personal finance, this shows up in some very expensive ways. It's the person who does their own investing by picking individual stocks and consistently underperforms the S&P 500 while spending hours on it. Research by Dalbar shows that the average self-directed investor earns significantly less than the index year over year, largely due to emotional, overconfident trading decisions. It's the person who thinks they can time the market, sell before it crashes, buy back at the bottom. Even professional fund managers with PhDs and Bloomberg terminals can't do this consistently. But the guy watching CNBC on his lunch break is sure he's got an edge. It's the entrepreneur who mortgages their house to fund a business because they are certain this will work, without doing the basic market research to test the idea first. Overconfidence isn't just arrogance. It's the absence of humility about what you don't know. And in money, what you don't know will absolutely hurt you. The fix is simple. Build in a mandatory pause before any financial decision over $500. 24 hours minimum, 1 week for anything over $5,000. Use that time to ask yourself, what would I need to believe is wrong for this to be a bad decision? That one question will save you more money than any financial hack. So here's the thing. None of what I just described makes you bad with money. It makes you human. Lifestyle inflation, present bias, mental accounting, social comparison, loss aversion, scarcity mindset, overconfidence. These aren't failures of willpower. They are features of a brain that evolved to survive, not to build a retirement portfolio. The first step to beating them is simply knowing they exist. You can't fight a trap you can't see. The second step is designing your financial life around these biases, not against them. Automate your savings so your present bias never gets a vote. Mute the comparison triggers. Pause before big decisions. Pay yourself first, always. Your income isn't the ceiling. Your brain is. And the good news is, unlike your income, your brain is something you can actually reprogram. If this video hit different, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want to go deeper on the practical steps, how to actually set up the automation, how to build an investment system, how to calculate your real financial baseline, hit subscribe, because that's exactly what's coming next. I'll see you in the next one.